regular meeting for Monday, November the 25th, 2019. Could I please have the roll call?
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Circo.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. As we rise tonight for the Pledge of Allegiance, could you all please pause with me for a moment of silence in memory of the loss of Tony Circo, Tom Circo's brother. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we do have a presentation from Constable Sanitation on an update and report on their services. Mr. Pureborn? Oh, come on up, Mr. Constable.
Thank you, sir. I will ask Mr. Constable to join us.
He was on his way.
I'm ready to come on up. Thank you for having me tonight, Council and Mayor. And I wanted to stop by and give an update onto our trash service here in Raymore, Missouri. Last time I was here, we were just starting to transition into a new contract, and I wanted to go over how that transition went, what we do currently, and really the future, what we can do to improve Raymore trash going down the road. When we first started, I would say our longest week was when we first implemented the bulk item program mixed with the start of the recycling program. That really wasn't picked up for about a month, so I would say that was the longest evenings our trucks would be on the road, and since we've stabilized our routes. The bulk program started with about 300 plus participants for the first 2 months. Since it's trailed down, and typically about 100 items are out on that weekly basis. The vehicles that we purchased for the contract were able to be delivered on time to start the contract, and we were able to keep $750,000 worth of that purchased in Grandview, Missouri. So we were definitely happy we were able to keep it in the local economy. We were also able to work through the transition. For the first month, the previous haulers' carts were in the right-of-ways, and since all the carts have been removed. Our routes, all the trucks have been decaled, sharing our relationship with the city, and we hope that helps residents communicate with us and city staff if they have any additional questions. The majority of the communication between the residents and is done through our dedicated staff. So we take about 80% of the phone calls. So hopefully that's taken some off the city plate. We also added a code system for our customer service. You know, if there is an issue, if there is a miss, we label them and we send that spreadsheet over and share it week in, week out with the city here. Green means that it was a one-time occurrence, miss, something could have been in the way. Yellow is a second occurrence in a 60-day period, and we'll discuss it with the driver and see if there's going to be a reoccurring issue. If it is labeled as a red miss, it is 2 weeks in a row or constantly reoccurring, then we'll investigate it on the route side, as well as have our supervisor check it for the next 4 weeks. In the future, we are looking to add another truck to the Raymore trash program here. This will really help cover. We saw an increase in the number of projected homes than we initially anticipated with the recycling, which is great. We just would like to add an extra vehicle to help with those collection times and knock those down a little bit. We also do a good job keeping track of our monthly billings. And we can see that Raymore grows each month, so we'll be able to anticipate and add any future residents. Really, trash is a system built from 5 components: administrative system, maintenance system, culture system, financial system, and operating system. And I constantly make tweaks to try to keep improving our process. And tonight we brought in a survey that we're looking to post on our website, as well as, with your approval, have it listed on the billings for residents to go and fill out and give us some feedback, so I know those tweaks to make to those systems. Also, we would like to add some recycling guidelines to social media. We found that people in Raymore really, they choose to recycle. They want to recycle, and sometimes, you know, it might be hard to find information in regards to the recycling guidelines and what to recycle. So we're going to make a valid effort to try to get more out for the residents to know what is recyclable and to continue the program and push it clean and keep it running. Outside of that, I definitely can't be up here without the help of city staff, you know, throughout this whole process. They've been priceless. You know, they've really helped us implement into Raymore, and hopefully we can continue to build on that relationship in the future. Thanks for having me tonight, and hopefully you guys have a fun, safe Thanksgiving.
So, great report. Since this is your first foray into residential trash pickup, if you will, as a city, is it what you thought it would be, and do you feel like you've been a success to this point? And then I've got some feedback for you on that as well.
I always look at trash as those systems. From a resident standpoint, I've received a lot of positive feedback. From a personal standpoint, I'm always going to be a perfectionist. To me, it's 70% there. I would like to add in some tweaks and some of the routing to get to that 100% is always what we're looking to achieve.
I would concur with most of your statements. I think it's been a fantastic transition. My trash is gone in the morning by probably 8:30, and everything's back where it was at. We had obviously some tension, high emotions when we had the old vendor, and especially, you know, right before the transition period, and that's just dropped off the planet. Everybody seems to be very pleased, and I can tell you from the fact that you are here speaking to us tonight that you care more about this and this community than just the contract that you signed with us, and that is probably the biggest secret to your success, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Circo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Constable, I want to relate the same thing. I'm pretty happy with the service. You've done a great job. We never have no problems. I've heard but a lot of good responses in the last months with your company. The people are very happy as far as I know, the ones I've talked with. I know sometimes in my neighborhood the trash might be running or a little late, but I never worry about it because I know it's going to get picked up. And most of my people in my area and Ward 2 that I talk to, next day it's gone. It's not there overnight. It did get picked up. You do your due diligence to get their people out there, even if you're running a little late, but you get it picked up. Where in the past, it could sit there for a day or two. It wouldn't get done. So again, you're doing a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned and the people I talk with. And thank you for your due diligence and all you do. Keep up the good work, and we'll just get a tighter ship here as we go.
Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you, sir. We'll look forward to more communication on this then.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to staff reports.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a report for the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In addition to my written report, I wanted to update you on several capital projects that the engineering division has been working on. We have in hand the Kentucky Road plans, the final realignment plans. We will be bidding that project after the first of the year. The Bristol culvert in the Brookside South subdivision is done. The contractor will be backfilling it, and we're going to let it set over the winter, and then the road construction is going to occur in the spring. We are really looking forward to that road road connection. Staff is just about wrapped up with the Herald Estates sanitary sewer extension plans. That is our first in-house complete design, and so we're very pleased with that. And again, we anticipate bidding that after the first of the year. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Krass? Not moving right along.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council, a couple quick items here from my written staff report and just some updates. We did our first of 2 trout stocking at Johnston Lake. Boy, that's a mouthful. And so there are plenty of cold weather fish in Johnston Lake right now. And if you drive by Hawk Ridge Park, the parking lots are never empty. There are always cars in there. So it is turning out to be a fantastic park. And we'll do the second round of stocking in February for that program. So we did some live streaming on Facebook and some social media stuff. It's always a popular program. This past weekend, we held the Holiday Craft Fair at the Rack, another facility that we didn't have just a couple years ago. We sold out all of our vendor booths, average of 300 to 400 people running through that particular facility every hour. It was a 3-4 hour event, so very popular. Already had vendors coming in today requesting when we're going to do the spring one and will we do another one, was it successful, so we have no intentions of stopping that program anytime soon. We do have an ice rink. It was delivered last week. It was installed and my staff have been trained on it. Unfortunately, ice is a cold man's game, and we are in the Midwest and it has been very warm, so we work really hard in the evening when the temperatures drop to build that ice, and then we blanket it and hold it and try to keep it frozen during the day. So if you drive by and look at it under the depot, you'll see some insulated blankets on top of it. It is a little slushy during the day, and then it refreezes at night. So it's one of those processes that you just can't control the weather. You got to work with what you get. But the process is working, and we will have a sheet of ice as soon as the weather cooperates with us. So I'll tell you, I'll never ask for cold weather, but I'll be happy in terms of the ice rink when it is cold consistently on that particular front. Tomorrow night is the mayor's tree lighting at TB Hanna, so if you attend that event, you'll get to see the ice rink. Weather will dictate whether we get to skate on it or if we just get to look at it tomorrow, but everybody will see it, and I'll give a kind of an update to the public tomorrow night during that event. We also have the mayor's coat drive going on, so they can bring coats, and we always collect canned food items. We don't necessarily advertise that, but if anybody that used to do that program will have a place for that. And then next week, we are scheduled, barring any schedule changes, a joint work session with the park board. That's your next work session, and at that time, staff will give an update on CIP projects that have happened this calendar year. And that concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great report, Nathan. I have a question about Hawk Ridge. I've noticed, too, especially like 4 to 5 o'clock, how that parking lot just fills up. Is it the trout that's bringing them out there? Is it the dock? Is it the Mindy's out there? That's the first part of my question. The second, I've gone there and talked to a few folks, and it seems like there's a lot of people that come from all over the metro fishing out there, not just Raymore residents. That's what you're seeing as well?
Yes, when we go out and talk to folks, and especially Superintendent Rulo, he's really good about going out and talking to folks. And then we have a resident that lives right on the lake and one of our park board members, so they kind of report in. Mr. Lotzenheimer, he's one of our watchdogs there at the park. Those that are coming to fish typically are traveling from out of town. The residents, the local ones, they're utilizing the trail system, and so we're kind of seeing a mix of both right now. But it is popular, and this weather we've been having has been really conducive to being out there.
Ms. Berenson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mustine, thank you for the report. Just a quick, maybe a PSA. You do need a trout stamp to fish for those, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you can get that at MDC online?
Yes, sir.
Has anybody been checking out there? I know that's not our responsibility really to do that, but have you seen any?
Yes, our local game warden is there all the time, and I'll not tell you when he shows up.
Okay.
All right. He just arrives.
Good information. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, Mr. Mustine. And as a point of clarification, I'm sure that Mr. Mustine, when he says that his staff has been trained on the ice rink, he means running the ice rink, not skating on the ice rink, I assume.
They're very good at sliding across.
With that, I would ask for a report in the Communications Department from Mr. Icky and let him kick that off.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to call Melissa Harmer up to give the communications report.
Thank you, Mr. Icky. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I am going to have Mr. Cataract broadcast to your computers. I just have a, oh good, it's up there too. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to play these first couple videos here, but I just wanted to let you know that I've been working with Public Works trying to do more video to get our information out to people, because it's easier to watch a video than sometimes read things that are long and involved. This was actually the day before the gala that I took this video of our snowplow prep training day, and then we also did, how do I go? Okay, sorry. A snowplow blind spot test, which you can see at raymore.com/snow or on our YouTube channel, City of Raymore. Anyway, so I think it's been really helpful to put these videos out, and people seem, the most immediate feedback is from Facebook, obviously, and people seem really surprised. I was surprised if you listen to me in this video, oh my gosh, like you have to be at least 80 feet back from the plow before they can see you. And then I will go into, so check those out at raymore.com/snow. Fundraising continues. So in November, we did a Pop Out Your Pet fundraiser at Centerview and raised almost $400, $390 for the Raymore Animal Shelter. This is, I think, the fourth one that we've done since we started a couple years ago, and so this has brought in well over $1,000 to our Raymore Animal Shelter. It's really fun, and people were already asking when the next one was. So that's a really fun thing I work on with Jamie and Bailey at the animal shelter to bring in some more funds that our regular budget doesn't quite cover sometimes. The Raymore Police Department Shop with the Cop, I've had the pleasure of working with Captain Wilson on this for, this will be the third year. So we raised in kind of record time more than $4,500 for the Shop with the Cop program, where one of our officers all of our officers team up with a child to take them holiday shopping in December. This is, I think, the fourth year. We started in 2016 with just taking 10 children shopping, and last year I think it was 34 children, and now it will be 45 children this year. From November 1st to November 21st, we raised more than $4,500, which is really exciting. I would like to say it's because I had an idea to post silly jib-jab videos with our officers' faces in elves and pajamas and crazy characters. Each time we reached a fundraising milestone, which, we did, but I believe that it was mostly because some of our officers are very competitive and somehow have great dentists that donate lots of money. But I do want to go ahead and I put a little compilation video together. It's not more than 30 seconds long. Sorry, Captain Wilson. He's front and center in a lot of these videos, so I will show this really quickly. If you'd like to see more, those are all on our police's Facebook page. And thank you again to the police officers who let me do that to them for the sake of the children. Also, thanks to the power of social media and my being home on a Friday night, we were able to convince the Hertz Donut emergency donut vehicle to visit Raymore this last Wednesday. They came to the parking lot, and in just under an hour, they sold out of 95 dozen donuts, 24 giant cinnamon rolls, and I'm still not quite sure of the number of maple bacon bars. I know they went fast. Hertz Donuts supports a local charity in every city where they set up, which is only, I think, 9 or 10 times a year. They kind of come and do these remotes, and they will donate a portion of their sales to our police Shop with a Cop program. We don't know the total yet, but we will get a little more toward that program, which is great. So, and they're also graciously offering to donate some donuts for the night of Shop with a Cop for all of the children that will be at the Raymore Activity Center before they go shopping. Upcoming, we have the Raymore Arts Commission Holiday Sing-Along. I also have a video for that on our YouTube channel. It's really fun. We kind of packed the house last year at the St. Paul's United Methodist Church, so everyone's invited Monday, December 2nd at 3:30. We'll have Ward 4 Town Hall postcards. They should be showing up in Ward 4 mailboxes starting this Friday through about the first week of December. I'm working on designing a holiday recycling themed postcard to remind people what you can and cannot recycle during the holidays. We produce a lot more trash, and like Mr. Constable said, we want to do the right thing and we want to recycle, but sometimes things just aren't recyclable. So that should be going out to every home in the city in the next couple weeks. I'm working on compiling articles for the review and the Parks and Rec Guide, the new one that comes out in January. And I'm also working with Raymore Animal Control again for a December 21st fundraising event that will be at the Giant Stables on South School Road, just south of Hubach Hill, which is Glass Horse Farm, Silver Creek, and Mike Grimm training. So we will have a really fun horse rides and hopefully just really fun and not as crazy of planning as some of our previous fundraisers. But put that on your calendar for December 21st from 11 to 2. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions of Melissa? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Mr. Holman again?
I was just going to say, I don't know if we're doing tons more stuff or it's just the new presentation format, but this is fantastic. It seems like this is 6 months worth of stuff that you've rolled into about a month or two here. It's really good. And I'd like to remind everybody that during our last community conversations, the initial 3 we had plus the one the year after, these were the kinds of things that our citizens were asking for, were these types of events, more interactive events within the city. So this is really great, Melissa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fearborn, anything else?
Thank you, sir. Just a few items from me. Reminder to the City Council that we do have a work session and a joint work session next week. The single item of conversation, and we felt that it was pretty fitting to be in with the Park Board as well, is significant discussion of the bond issue projects that the council would like to see put for the potential of an April no tax increase bond issue. That's my first item. Second item, I am very proud of staff and pleased to report that we have received notification that we have once again received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award, 15th year in a row. We have also received notification from the Universal Public Procurement Certification Council. They have named Raymore as a sterling agency for having achieved certification in best practices in purchasing and procurement for 3 years in a row. That concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Fearborn? Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items under the consent agenda. All or singularly can be approved. I would entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to include item A, City Council minutes from the October 28th, 2019 meeting of the City Council. Item B, acceptance of public improvements, Evanbrook 7th Plat. And item C, City Hall front entrance modification project, acceptance and final payment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3497 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3497 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from C2 General Commercial District to R3B Apartment Community Residential District, a 3.8-acre tract of land located south of Grant Drive, east of Adams Street in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3497, the rezoning of Grant Drive and Adams Street.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3497. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3495 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3495 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with R.L. Phillips Construction, Inc. for the TB Hanna Station site work project, City Project Number 19-276-203A, in the amount of $234,250, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3495, the TB Hanna Station site work project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3495. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Okay, please have the second reading of Bill 3496 by title only.
The second reading of Bill 3496 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Daco Painting for the exterior painting and upgrades to City Hall in the amount of $28,152.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3496, award of contract to Daco Painting for exterior painting of City Hall.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3496. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to new business. Please have the reading of Resolution 19-63 by title only.
The reading of Resolution 19-63 by title only. A resolution of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Sixth Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding for the Creekmore Planned Unit Development, located in Sections 4, 5, and 8, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. This item requires a public hearing. I will open the public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Cataret to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Cooper Land Development has filed a request for what would be the Sixth Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding for the Creekmore subdivision. This request does require a public hearing. I do need to enter into the record the notice of publication of the hearing in the Journal, the mailed notices to the adjoining property owners, our Unified Development Code, our Growth Management Plan, the staff report submitted to you this evening, and the proposed Sixth Amendment to the MOU. The Sixth Amendment proposes three changes to the MOU. The first change would modify what is currently the approved development plan for the entire subdivision, which is dated in June of 2006. The request is to modify an area of the subdivision. It would be the very southeast quarter of the subdivision along Madison Street. It's about a 17.5-acre area. It's currently on the approved plan. It's designated as a two-family land use area. So the subdivision would allow for duplexes to be constructed within that 17-acre area. The request in this MOU amendment is to modify that land use, this plan, to show that single-family detached homes would replace the two-family within just that 17.5-acre area. The second change in the MOU simply updates the overall land use summary for the entire subdivision, just updating the acreages and percentages of land use for the entire subdivision if this change were to be approved. The third change modifies the MOU by adding a standards for development for what's going to be known as gallery lots. So different phases of Creekmore have different lot standards. Some are bigger, some are smaller lots, smaller reduced setbacks, et cetera. This would be a new standard for lot sizes that are smaller than the smallest lot, which are the villas at Westbrook Villas. So they would establish these new standards. They would only apply to this phase. And again, it allows for a new concept, a new home design that's being brought forward by an interest by Summit Homes. Summit Homes has expressed interest in purchasing, developing this 17.5-acre area. I included in your packet an actual conceptual plan that they laid out that showed a proposed total of 60 lots in this phase. The first phase of the development would actually be, I believe, 40 lots within the development. Still follows the same street pattern, the same cul-de-sac pattern, just the lots, again, are a little bit smaller, so they allow a little bit smaller homes. I also included in your packet some examples of the home styles that someone would look to construct on the property. They're, again, very nice homes. They're two-car garage homes, but the homes are a little bit narrower than the other Summit homes you would see in the neighborhood, and again, on smaller, narrower lots. So they show a variety of the home styles that they'd be proposing within the subdivision. This was a public hearing because it was a land use change in that part of the subdivision. We did notify the landowners within 185 foot of this particular area to be rezoned, so neighbors on Madison Street and to the south did get notice of the hearing at the Planning Commission meeting and the hearing this evening. The Planning Commission has submitted proposed findings of fact on the request to amend the MOU. At their November 19th meeting, they did vote 8-0 to accept those findings and forward this request to the council with the recommendation of approval. I did include in your packet the minutes from that meeting, as I did have some discussion on the request that was being made. Steve Warger, who is the project engineer for Cooper on this development, is here if you have specific questions for him. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Carteret. A thorough report as usual. Question for you or perhaps Mr. Warger. Obviously, the initial planning of this was 13 years ago when it was set for multifamily or two-family, and now the change to single-family detached with the narrower lots and a little bit of change. I'm assuming that change request would come from either existing market conditions and demand or anticipated demand. Is that a reasonable assumption?
I'll let Mr. Warger answer that if that's okay.
Thank you.
I knew you'd get me up here. Steve Warger with RIC LLC, 5015 Northwest Canal Street, Riverside, Missouri. Here on behalf of Cooper Land Development this evening. To answer your question, Councilman Holman, basically with these lots, they are smaller lots. They seem to be more attractive to have the smaller lot size, but if you kind of look at it, it pretty much takes up the same space as what you would do duplexes, just not with your common walls. This is something that's happening, or we're seeing a lot more of it in the metro area with what we do as far as engineering and in the development world, as far as getting something here in a level to where it's a decent product, gets you a yard, but it also hopefully brings the price point down a little bit more for, if you will, more affordable, but that's to each person's deal and what affordable is. So, but anyway, with that, hopefully that answers your questions. If you have any other questions, be happy to answer them. And we're in favor of the staff comments, reports, or whatever. Obviously, we've gone over it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else have any questions of staff? If not, the public hearing is open. Would entertain if anybody wished to address this issue before the council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at this time. And I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Resolution 19-63, Sixth Amendment to the Creekmore Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve Resolution 19-63. Any further discussion? Mr. Holman?
Just, I wanted to say, Mr. Werger, excellent answer to the question. One of the things that staff has been reporting back to us over about the last 12 months or so are changes in market conditions and demands of what the public is looking for in terms of housing. Price point, style, yard size, multifamily versus single-family detached. So I can see kind of where this is coming from. They have provided us with a lot of information saying that there are some changes from the there's still certainly the demand for the standard lot, single size or single detached family home, but there's also an expanding market for a variety of other types of housing as well. So I think this fits a niche and a need. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3499 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3499 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from BP Business Park District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, a 136.38 acre tract of land located south of North Cass Parkway, east of Interstate 49 in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. This item also requires a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time, and then I'll ask for a staff report.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Cataret to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Van Trust Real Estate filed this request to reclassify the zoning of approximately 136 acres. It's located at the southeast corner of I-49 and North Cass Parkway interchange. As this is a land use request, it does require a public hearing. I do need to enter into the record the notices that were mailed to the adjoining property owners, the notice of publication in the Journal, our Unified Development Code, the application that was filed, our growth management plan, staff report submitted to you this evening, the applicant's conceptual site plan, and the draft of the memorandum of understanding for the reclassification of zoning. The current zoning of Business Park on the property was established back in 2014. Previous to that, it was zoned agricultural. The principal purpose for the request to reclassify the zoning from Business Park to planned unit development is really to provide flexibility in the development of the site to Van Trust. There is there'll be an approved site plan for the entire development that lays out, and that's what was included in your packet, laid out 3 buildings on the site. The PUD zoning does not change the uses that are allowed on the property. That remains consistent. What's the reason for the PUD allows flexibility depending upon what tenants they may attract. They may want to reposition the buildings that are on the approved site plan, increase, decrease in size, maybe go from 3 to 4 buildings. It allows them flexibility to not have to go back through the entire site plan process. So the Planning Commission was comfortable in this MOU where it lays out there's an approved site plan. If they want to modify that site plan, staff has the ability, as long as all the requirements of City Code and the Unified Development Code are met, staff can approve that amended site plan. We already have that ability on all projects to a limited extent. The PUD zoning simply allows it, again, if the market dictates a 1 million square foot building as building number 1, staff can review that, and if it meets our requirements, can approve that without the project having to go all the way back through the review process. So what's important, again, is that the uses aren't changing, but only the flexibility given on the project. The project still, and the zoning of this property still complies with the original intent of the master plan for the Good Ranch. The Planning Commission has submitted proposed findings regarding this rezoning request. It was at their October 16 of 2018 meeting that they voted 7-0 to accept the findings of fact and forward this rezoning application to the council with recommendation of approval. And I mentioned the 2018. You recall there were a few meetings after that where the applicant requested to continue the hearing. We were still going through review of the project in general. They were starting their work on their request for financial incentives for the project. And so there was just a hold placed on the project. What has occurred since then, in October, when they were ready to move forward with the project, staff went ahead and re-notified all the same landowners that were notified back in 2008 of the rezoning request. We wanted to make sure everybody that was aware in 2018 knew it was coming back. We put the signs out on the property. We put the legal notice in the newspaper. Started the process over at the city council level, so everybody was notified of this meeting here this evening. And I just want to make sure that the council was clear on the process we took to get this before you this evening. I did, just for your review, include the minutes from the October Planning Commission meeting, as well as the draft copy of that memorandum of understanding, which gives them the details of the actual flexibility that's being built into this project. That memorandum will be executed and recorded, and that, again, will dictate what happens moving forward as far as the project. So that concludes staff report. I do want to note that Grant Harrison is here this evening for the applicant, if you have any questions of him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Does the applicant wish to make a statement?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Grant Harrison, Van Trust Real Estate, hopefully the developer and owner of this site. I really wanted to say thank you for your time and consideration tonight of our rezoning request. As Jim mentioned, it's been a long process of collaboration, kind of working through the details. Thrilled to be here tonight and really look forward to hopefully a groundbreaking next spring. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Any questions of him? Thank you, sir. And as a reminder to the audience, the public hearing is open at this time. If anyone from the public would like to address the council on this particular topic, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing at this time. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3499, reclassification of zoning, Raymore Industrial Development.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3499. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3501 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3501 by title only, an ordinance approving a plan and development and performance agreement for an industrial development project for Van Trust Real Estate, LLC.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Special Economic Development Counsel Sid Douglas to make staff report on this item.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Sid Douglas with Gilmore and Bell. You've heard a little bit of discussion about the proposed project, and in conjunction with that, the developers asked for economic incentives from the city to help make the project become a reality. And we had extensive discussions with that about the project last week at your work session. As a brief summary, the developer is asking for the issuance of Chapter 100 bonds. Those will be issued in one or more series depending upon how the project actually builds out. We've taken the best information that we've got from the developer at this point of what he expects for the development of the project, and based on that information, a proposed payment in lieu of tax has been laid out of what's expected to be paid per square foot of building that's actually built. And based on that, if you look at the project as it stands right now, is included in the cost-benefit analysis over the next 20 years, the taxes expected to be paid on the project will only amount to about $19,000. If ultimately the project builds out and the full amount of taxes were paid without any kind of abatement, you could expect a little bit over $43 million of taxes that would be paid. With the payment in lieu of tax, you're expected to receive just a little bit less than $10 million over the next 20 years. Those payments would be allocated out to all the different taxing districts proportional to what their tax rates are to everybody else's tax rate. The resulting impact is that there's going to be approximately $33 million of incentive savings and property tax abatement that would be received by the developer in building out this project. In addition, because it's a Chapter 100 project, there's some sales tax exemptions on construction materials. And based on the expected purchases of where those would occur and the amount of construction costs that would be paid, you could expect that it'd be another $1.6 million of savings on sales taxes related to the project. Notices were mailed to all the affected taxing districts. We received all the receipts back acknowledging that they've received notice, and those taxing districts would have the opportunity to make any comments on the approval of the plan this evening. I'll be happy to take any questions or answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Douglas? Yes, Ms. Abdelwood.
Thank you, sir. Just a quick question, just to clarify. I understand you mentioned the taxing districts and that money will still flow through to them. So just to be clear for people who don't listen to this as often as we do, what you're saying is the fire department, the school district, will still be getting the tax money. So even though we are abating some of the taxes that would come to the city, those important places that people want to be sure are being funded will still get their money.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Douglas. And as Mr. Douglas mentioned, any of those taxing jurisdictions that might be here this evening wish to address the council at this time, please step forward. If there are none, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3501, Raymore Industrial Development, Chapter 100 bonds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3501. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3502 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3502 by title only, an ordinance approving a plan for an industrial development project and authorizing the City of Raymore, Missouri to issue taxable industrial development revenue bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $26,500,000 and to enter into certain documents in connection therewith.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would once again ask Mr. Douglas to make staff report on this item.
David Martin, Gilmore and Bell. I'm here with Sid Douglas, my partner. Got a little younger over the last few minutes.
I keep forgetting that
Sid,
split.
that hurts.
Forgive me, David.
So this project is similar in that it is also a Chapter 100 transaction, and so it functions similarly to the one that Sid just described. However, the goals on this particular project are a little bit different in that the project itself is different, and the incentives that are typically given to this type of project are not the same as the industrial types of projects that Sid just described. So in this case, we have a 204-unit townhome complex that's going to be constructed, and it is made up of 4-plex units, so each building will have 4 individual units that are leasable individually to end users. And the incentive here, as opposed to providing property tax abatement, where you would reduce the amount of tax liability in each year, is simply to fix the amount of tax liability that the developer can expect to pay over a 25-year period. So the payment in lieu of tax in this circumstance is set to equal 100% of the taxes that we anticipate would be due in the first year upon project completion. And that is subject to a modifier of 2% in every odd year to reflect the type of inflation that we normally see on these types of projects as well. So the benefit that the developer receives out of this is the knowledge that they are insulated from a sudden tax increase or assessed valuation increase that would be unanticipated, may occur 10 years down the road. They have the ability to tell their financing bank they're insulated from that, and here is the amount of taxes you can expect to pay over a 25-year period. So the taxes will be set per leasable unit at the rate of $1,241 initially, and that's anticipated to start billing in 2022 We think the project will be about half completed at that point. 2023 is anticipated for the first year for that full billing. There is a tax reduction component to this, but it is not related to the property taxes paid. It's related to the sales tax exemption on construction materials. Similarly to the Van Trust, the sales tax is completely exempt on projects that are under Chapter 100 for which the city provides its exemption certificate. In this case, that is anticipated to save the developer about $750,000 in the course of construction. The main difference between what we're trying to accomplish in this ordinance versus the Van Trust ordinance is we have two components to this. This is approving the plan and additionally approving the bond documents to affect the plan. In the Van Trust circumstance, they will come back on a later date and ask you to approve the bond documents. So in addition to the plan, we have in front of you a indenture of trust under which the bonds will be issued, a lease agreement under which the city will lease the project back to the company, because the first portion of these transactions procedurally is the city taking fee title to the project, the land underlying the project. So it's leased back to the company with some provisions indemnifying the city in case of a loss, requiring insurance that also covers the city's interests. Then there's a performance agreement that requires the payments in lieu of taxes that I just discussed, and a bond purchase agreement that this binds the company into purchasing all of the bonds itself, as opposed to having a third-party bank or financier involved. We have a representative of the company here if you have any questions for them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on the plan or the bond documents.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Very comprehensive report. So for people like me that are not nearly as smart or as experienced as you, this particular structure would be much like what Evergy or Missouri Gas Energy refers to as their level payment plan, because in opposing seasons, my bill goes way up, and in the opposite season, it's way down. This just does the level pay roughly, and you're going to pay the same amount with a slight increase each year calculated in. So is that a fair analogy for this project?
It's somewhat similar. So the idea is to insulate against sudden increases. And so it's a escalated level payment, I suppose.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
And if I could amplify on that, the developer does assume over the entire period of the Chapter 100 program a degree of risk should, within that period, there not be a year where that 2% would be realized in the increase in the assessed valuation. They're still responsible for the increase. The advantage to the developer as opposed to that risk is that they have a known quantity.
Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I remember the work session correctly, this number that you're pulling out is not one that you came up with yourself. You worked with the Cass County assessor. Am I correct? To come up with a reasonable figure?
That is correct. City staff worked with the assessor in order to determine the initial assessed valuation that we assumed for the project upon completion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. And as this is similar to the last item, any of those taxing jurisdictions that would like to comment on this item, please step forward. Yes, Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I would point out to the council, and going back one agenda item to Councilmember Abdelgawad's question, for the major taxing jurisdictions, the school district and South Metro, which are by far the largest, we actually met with them ahead of time on both of these projects to get their input and feedback, and they had no objection to either of those projects, which is probably why they're not present this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff or Mr. Lovelace, did you want to make a comment before we move on? Nope. Yes, good to go? All right, all right. So I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
I move that we approve Bill 3502, the venue of the Good Ranch Chapter 100 bonds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3502. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Okay, please have the first reading of Bill 3503 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3503 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving the Edgewater at Creekmore 7th plat, lots 219 through 229, and tracts I and J located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make the staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Cooper Land Development has submitted a request for the 7th phase of the Edgewater at Creekmore subdivision. This would be an 11-lot subdivision phase of single-family detached homes. Be located by extending Hampstead Drive further to the east. And this Hampstead Drive is off of Creekmore Drive. And these 11 lots would actually be at the southeastern edge of Creekmore Lake. The Planning Commission has submitted proposed findings of fact on this final plat application. And at their November 19th meeting, they did vote 8-0 to accept those findings and forward this final plat request to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. The review of the engineering department comments is included in your packet, as well as the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting, and a copy of the development agreement for the subdivision is included. Again, Mr. Warger is here if you have any questions of the applicant. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Any questions of Mr. Warger? Mr. Warger, any comment? No, sir? Okay. Thank you. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Olin?
I move that we approve Bill 3503, Edgewater at Creekmore 7th plat.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3503. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Okay, please have the first reading of Bill 3500 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3500 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri adopting and enacting a revised code of ordinances and providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as expressly provided.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. In 2016, the city began the process of conducting a comprehensive review of the entire city code of ordinances. This process was done at that time in conjunction with the 10-year review of the city charter. The first phase of the code review involved looking at those areas of the code that were either in conflict with or didn't support the purpose or wording of the city charter. Those areas have previously been reviewed by our group with the council and adopted into the code at earlier dates. At the same time, a more comprehensive and systematic review was undertaken for the entirety of the code. This review was done by all staff, with participation especially by those departments that would be impacted by or enforcing the area being reviewed. Once the entire code had been reviewed with modifications completed, each title was presented to the City Council over the course of several months to receive your feedback and input and questions. Following those meetings, staff conducted one final review to incorporate council feedback and make final wording adjustments. The entire Code of Ordinances is now presented to the council for adoption. At this point in time, would like to take an opportunity to thank a myriad of folks from our boots on the ground people through our mid-level managers to the management team to the core team that worked on this. Would especially like to thank City Clerk Jeannie Warner, who kept the entirety of the group on task at all times. When we had reached the point where we were describing it as the review, we knew we'd been through it quite enough. When we looked back to the comments section on this, it was amazing. We're here in 2019, and I'm seeing Lieutenant Abdelgawad weighing in at 11:45 at night on one section of code in 2016, and here we are now. The significance of this, and one of our staff members indulged me, when I came on in September of 2014, I was indulged to allow the bill that hired me as city manager to be bill number 3000. You will note the significance. We are now 500 bills later, and so the Code of Ordinances is presented to the council for your consideration with Bill 3500. That concludes staff report this evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now you know why your packet was 951 pages long. Any questions of staff? Great work on that, you guys. I know it took a long time. It just seems like trivial for you to give like a 3-minute speech on it when it took so much time and energy to research this and put it together and make changes and present them to us, and moving along the process just seems like a huge mountain. But you guys got it done, and we thank you for that. Any further questions or anything? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3500, recodification of the Raymore Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3500. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3491 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3491 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving an agreement with the Mid-America Regional Council Solid Waste Management District relating to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Program.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Yes, I would ask Mr. Krass to make the staff report on this agenda item and apologize for teeny tiny spreadsheets.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. What you have before you this evening is the annual contract with the Mid-American Regional Council for their household hazardous waste disposal program. The city's participation in this program allows residents to participate for free in several HHW drop-off events, including the event that alternates between Raymore and Belton as a mobile drop-off, and to utilize permanent collection facilities throughout the region. This year, we have disposed of over 44,000 pounds of hazardous waste through this program. So it's a very successful program, and we do recommend approval of the contract. That concludes staff report. And I do apologize for the teeny tiny print.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Barber.
I didn't have a question. I just had a comment. And I was going to repeat, we do have the drop-off events that we have, but you made a statement that there are other areas that between time our citizens, because if we approve this contract, they are able to go and drop off. They have to show some kind of identification that they live in, where they live in Raymore, and that's there's no charge for that, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have good questions? If there aren't, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3491, MARC Household Hazardous Waste Agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3491. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3510 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3510 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, establishing an agreement to purchase and install playground equipment at Recreation Park with Game Time CO Cunningham Recreation.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Your Honor, I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this item.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight I bring forward a proposal from the Park Board recommending replacement of play equipment at Recreation Park. As you all are fully aware, the playground equipment there is long overdue for a replacement. This is one of our capital improvement projects for this fiscal year, and the Park Board reviewed a couple different proposals and made a recommendation, and so tonight before you is with that proposal is within the packet. This is a turnkey project within the budget that includes remove, replace, includes drainage, pour-in-place rubber surfacing. It is turnkey for our staff, so it utilizes the full square footage of the current imprint, And as you can see on the proposal, there's a lot going on there, so it's a nice proposal. My park board chair couldn't be here tonight, but our vice chair is here representing the park board, so we appreciate him being here. And be happy to answer any questions. The particular proposal utilizes the government purchasing contracts through Omnia, which both Game Time, Cunningham Recreation, and the City of Raymore are all members. So that concludes staff report.
Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mustine. I was curious if you knew why the lone nay vote dissented on this. Did they state their reasons?
Yes, sir. The one park board member who was not in agreement simply did not like the design.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mustine, thank you again for this report. Maybe a little bit off topic, but the existing playground, and my kids love it because they're really excited about the new one, but was it in good enough shape that we're able to donate that or find another user for it, or is it just beyond its useful life?
It is beyond its useful life. It doesn't meet safety standards anymore for current safety standards. It's kind of grandfathered in based on the standards when it was put in, but it wouldn't be suitable to donate and put somewhere else at this time.
That's not due to me using the equipment, is it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
That's not due to me using the equipment, I hope.
No, it's for all ages.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Circo.
Mr. Mustine, thank you on this. I like the design we talked about before. I met with a number of families out there in the past here this summer and fall, and we had some damage to the old playground. And you brought this up about the new one, and it brought a lot of interest and a lot of happy faces, and people are very interested in this. And I think this is going to be very positive for the city. I like the design and kind of going up with the code, getting back into the safety for the future equipment that's actually there for the children to keep it very safe and get rid of the stuff that's out of code. I like this park, and thank you for that work.
Thank you. Mr. Mustine, go ahead, Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mustine, why don't you take, if you don't mind, if you could take just a minute to brag on the equipment itself for the public and the inclusiveness aspect.
Okay, thank you. This particular piece of equipment, obviously it's Game Time. So in the world of parks and recreation, Game Time is the best equipment on the market. Now there's what we would call, similar to college football or college athletics, there's the Power Five or the top tier. Game Time is the best. It is the one brand of playground equipment we do not have in the city. So I felt like it was very important to go after this particular so we can diversify and make sure we have different products out there, but we also wanted to be able to brag on that we have the best. This particular proposal not only is a modular unit, but within on the second page or the third or fourth page, whichever, that page of your packet, it has a modular unit, which is one piece, but the other pieces that are included are what very similar to what we're proposing at Hawk Ridge Park and putting at TV Hanna. Those are the all-inclusive features. Even though the modular piece is ADA accessible, they're not necessarily all-inclusive. Those other pieces are. And I felt like a couple years ago when I made the commitment to, when we build playgrounds and build those amenities, we have that portion that is inclusive. That was one of the requirements that before we went to the park board that Game Time and Cunningham Rec had to include. So we're very pleased with the equipment. We think it's going to last. It's got a great warranty. I think in comparison to what is out there, the footprint is big. I mean, I think what happens is you lose sight of how big what is out there because you see it all the time when this comes in and you got a new surfacing and stuff, and then you got all the other extras around it. It's going to feel really big to the kids, and I think they're going to really enjoy it.
And I would add on to that, staff, Mr. Mustine and myself, Mr. Icky, had extensive conversations about this. We do not, we are soberly recognizing that we are presenting nearly $300,000 worth of purchase to the city council this evening without the benefit of seeing competitive bidding. I had to get to a place where I was very comfortable with that in presenting this to the council with my name on the recommendation line. So we have done extensive research into the structure of this. Omnia is actually a new combination of two online governmental bidding platforms. They do Parks and Rec departments, they do local and state government contracts all the time. Then I had to get myself over the hurdle of, was this a bottom-up contract, meaning they proposed, the Game Time and Cunningham proposed to a group, hey, use our catalog, which is one way of looking at it, or was this actually a competitive bid process? Our researches show that this particular bid was awarded to Game Time by the Omnia platform, but it was a sponsored bid by Mecklenburg County. And they had several competitive bids before this one was awarded by a sister entity, if you will, a large sister entity, if you will, and they have utilized that contract along with a number of other local entities numerous times. The grant portion of this, admittedly, is probably a misnomer. We are getting the discounted government pricing, and then we are getting a discount on top of that, which is basically, we've got expensive inventory and we've got people sitting on the bench right now, and winter is coming and we want to go ahead and get this inventory moved. So over and above the discounted governmental pricing, we are getting the additional discount, year-end discount, if you will. They call it a grant, but it's a year-end discount. So it truly is, I have settled in my mind that this is a very good proposal. I just wanted to inform the council of that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Abdulgawad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious about the surface, the ground surface. We'll be switching from wood chips right now out there, so it'll be a big change besides the equipment. That ground will be a big change for people too. Will you talk a little bit about what that is, how durable that is, kind of how that change is going to look and feel to people?
So Port in Place is what I would call at this point the go-to surfacing for playground equipment. It is, we're putting it at Memorial Park, which were one of the grants that we got, which was recycled Port in Place rubber there. This one is just a Port in Place rubber. It has built-in draining systems, so pooling and things like that that you would typically see with wood mulch where it would float and go away, and we have to reapply that every year. All that goes away. This has a draining system that flows out, and it is ADA accessible in terms of wheelchairs, walkers, any type of crutches, any type of stabilization for mobility, all function well on this and pass government standards for that. In terms of aesthetics, it makes the playground feel bigger. It makes it more fun. In terms of maintenance, it's a piece of cake. I mean, if the leaves are there, you take a leaf blower and you blow them off. I mean, it really makes maintaining a playground much easier. So it would be our goal to do all of our playgrounds with this. And understandably, it's very expensive. So we wanted to make sure that this got included within the proposals, and we're pleased with the outcome. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, go ahead.
So just a little bit more. I noticed it says tiles in here, and part of what I'm concerned about is, you know, sometimes people come in and damage things in our park. How durable is that? How much will it withstand as far as Henri Kids? And with the tiles, I'm wondering, can you replace a part of it, or what does that look like if it gets damaged?
Yes, excellent question. The Port in Place and the tile, the tile Port in Place is actually easier to maintain because you can repair it if it gets torn or gets ripped. It's much like carpet squares. It's just easier to replace a patch instead of a tear in a Port in Place floor. It's one of the reasons we did the same thing at the rack, where we did the floor there instead of a Port in Place rubber there. You get a tear or something, it's a patch, and you see a patch, where the tiles, they're really easier to remove and replace. Now, that doesn't make them easy for vandalism. I mean, you got to work at it, and we have security cameras and things going in out there to help prevent that. So we feel like it's going to be a long-lasting surface for us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3510, Recreation Park Playground Replacement Game Time Play Equipment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3510. Any further discussion? Mr. Holman?
I was really pleased to hear the extensive report, both from Mr. Mustine and Mr. Fearborn tonight, that we're using an incredibly high quality, or buying incredibly high quality playground equipment. And in that same vein, and during the process, we used strong fiscal responsibility to get the best possible price. We got a discount on top of a discount. The citizens of this city have been demanding that the city government raise its bar for the past 4 to 5 years. The elected members and representatives of the citizens that set up here have said the same thing, and staff has been implementing raising that bar for that same amount of time, and this is just another great example of those efforts.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Belgawad?
I agree with Mr. Holman, and just to add to that, I think sometimes when the city puts in a new park, when we're so focused on Hawk Ridge or TB Hanna, sometimes the other areas in town feel forgotten about, and so I think this is a great way to show people that the Parks Department, the Parks Board, the City Council are not forgetting about those things we already have. We do see and value the importance of keeping up what we have as well as adding new things.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone here in the audience wishes to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one stepping forward, we'll move on to mayor-council communication. And Mr. Circo, I'll start with you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the city and the council for giving a moment of silence for my brother. Appreciate that. We all stick together up here, and we're a team, we're a family. The city's a family, and they've really reached out to me, Mr. Fearborn and them, and it's very positive. And I thank you all for that. It means a lot. My brother wanted me here. He would have, because Monday night when I came last week, I was with him. He said, I know how much you like the city and you love your elected job. You go to your city council. We were at the hospital. He said, you come back, we'll watch football. But he died before I got back. And today, when we were at the funeral, I got to be able to preach a sermon and do the burial. And they told me, you got to go to city council now because that's what your brother would want. He would not allow you not to miss a city council. And so I'm here in dedication to my brother also. I want to thank the city staff for all the work you've done. All this 900-something pages, but it's a lot of work over the long haul, and you guys have done a great job as usual, making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Appreciate all that. Appreciate Mr. Mustine working so hard in the park. We've talked a lot of times, and a lot of people came to me about the park up there at Rec, about the equipment, and I went to him, and he already had a plan, and he's looking into trying to do something better, and you've gone the extra mile, and we'll have the city. I appreciate that. We need to do that, and the people I know will be grateful and very pleased. But again, thanks to the city. Thanks to you guys, the mayor and the council, for the condolences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say congratulations to city staff for being recognized by the reviewing peer organizations in a couple instances we talked about tonight. Once again, it's sad that we expect the best because we get complacent, but we do appreciate the best that we receive here all the time. And also, I wanted to send my regrets that I won't be able to make it to the Christmas tree lighting tomorrow because I remembered that we have a swim team banquet to go to. So I apologize, I will not be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'd simply like to thank staff and, frankly, this entire council. This is quite a council meeting this evening. I don't think people realize just how much
Amen.
Has gotten done this evening. The constable sanitation has been a success and sounds like it will continue to be so. The staff receiving the Distinguished Budget Award for how many years in a row now? Okay. So speaking of expecting the best, once again, we expect the best there. Ice rink coming in, playground equipment, codes codifications, industrial park, and it goes on and on. And I'm like, as fellow council members have said, I'd like to thank the staff for raising the bar as well. I mean, you can always go forward, and that's what we're trying to do, and I know the staff is doing a great job. I plan on being at the mayor's Christmas tree. Or do you get to put the star on top? Is that how that works?
If somebody will hold me steady. I don't do well on ladders anymore.
There you go.
There
Okay,
you go.
I like that, yeah. And I do want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And please be safe on the roads out there. I'm traveling myself, and hopefully we'll see everybody back here safe and sound after the holidays. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to echo my fellow council members throughout the conversations tonight. Very interesting docket tonight with all the things that were set into motion. That in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be an interesting look here in Raymore, from the residential aspect to the commercial aspect to our parks and rec, and the things that haven't even come before us officially yet. And you're hearing the rumors and things that are going on and the suspicions of things. It's a great time to be in Raymore. It's very interesting. In my short time on the council, I believe starting back before my time with the community conversations and with the mayor's direction and getting the community to give us information back on what they would like to see in the different surveys we've seen, and staff taking that information and running with it and continually checking in with the residents on what would you like to see from additional surveys and conversations. So it's great to see everyone engaging and staff taking that information from council and staff providing us with information and council deliberating over that and giving good recommendations back. So I'm honored and encouraged with the things that are going on in the community as we move forward, and would encourage staff to continue to do those good things. As has been said, it's amazing despite what you may hear on social media at times. Just pick up the phone and come into City Hall and ask a question. They're ready to give you an answer to your concerns. So keep it up, staff. Keep up the good work. One of the things I distinctly remember, probably my first council meeting or work session when we were going over the strategic plan, and it was brought up on how our communications department is going to manage the narrative on social media. When you think of how the World Wide Web is, how big that is. And I think you're doing a pretty good job of that, and I appreciate that. And staff across the board, and it's not just the communications department, but staff across the board and how they communicate with residents when they engage us directly. So I appreciate that, and we encourage those who are listening to do that, to engage staff directly when you have questions or concerns about things that are going on in the city, as well as your council members. Myself included, obviously, but to keep it up and job well done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of great comments from my fellow councilman over here to the left, and I don't have a lot to add to that, but I will concur with everything that you all said, and thank you for your comments tonight. That'll be all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the beginning of the meeting, Ms. Harmer mentioned the Ward 4 Town Hall meeting, those postcards going out. So I wanted to share the date for that, December 12th at 6:30. We'll be at Centerview. And on that same note, I want to apologize to the couple of people who were here last week when the Plan A meeting was supposed to happen. I had shared that day with a few people and didn't realize how many people I had told it to. So we did have a couple of people who came last week preliminarily for the meeting, so I wanted to publicly apologize to those people. We do have a Plan B, so I hope you'll give us another shot. So Plan B is December 12th. We hope to see everybody there from Ward 4. And then additionally, we had several items on our agenda tonight, and several people have talked about that really represent the culmination of months and years, as Mr. Fearborn shared, of work. We passed several very important items with what seemed like not much discussion or not many questions. And sometimes when I sit up here, I feel like that's hard, because if you just watch the meeting tonight, then it looks like we passed all these really important things and hardly talked about it at all. But just just a reminder that all of these things have come before the council many times. The city staff has spent hours and hours and hours working with developers, working with our attorneys, working together on these things. And just real quick, thinking about the magnitude of what we did tonight, I wanted just to take a minute to assure people that this has been months in the works, and just because we didn't talk about it tonight doesn't mean we take it lightly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it goes without being said, and it's been said here many times, we have a wonderful staff. Staff never ceases to amaze me. Whoever did the packet, I got to thank, too, because that was an amazing job. I don't know, Jeannie, did you do that? I can't imagine standing and watching 8 or 10 of these, how many you put together. Amazing. I'd say a couple words about Mr. Constable, who came forth. If we all remember back not too long ago, that's all we were talking about was trash. And now we don't talk about it much at all. And it was wonderful. It was really a breath of fresh air to have somebody that truly partners with us, and that's a true partner that will come forth and give us an update on what's going on, how he's moving forward. And it was really, I wouldn't want to go back and go with what we did before, but I am so happy it ended up the way it did. I think we're a much better city, and I think we truly have a partner, and I think it's going to continue for quite some time. There was a lot going on in the packet tonight, and I just, from my seat here, I want to make something clear that Raymore certainly is open for business. And we're open for new families to come in and share all this wonderful stuff that we're doing, the amenities and different things. And I'm excited for that. We're seeing some growth. And I'm going to speak a little bit. I had some shoes fixed this last week, and I was talking to the shoe guy, and he told me that 75% of his business is the last 3 months of the year. That's his income is generated in the last 3 months. Now, he would love to spread that out all throughout the year, but you can't choose when that happens. And just like with us, we've got an opportunity to grow here. We have an opportunity for people to invest in our city. And, sometimes it seems like it stacks up, but we can't choose when that happens. We just have to take advantage of it. And I think we got great staff that is doing a great job and continues to do a great job, and I think that is going to keep continuing. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would concur with everyone's comments tonight. President Kennedy once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." But I can tell you tonight, we did a big portion in just under an hour and a half, which will go for the final handoff of the ball to you for your signature. And I identified, by no means the complete list, but 8 highlights that I think people would be interested in hearing tonight. We had a report on the new and much improved and wonderful trash service with our engaged and new trash provider. We had an incredible display of the elevation, importance, and rock star work of our communications department from Ms. Harmer, and the incredible number of projects that she's been working on as of recent. We approved 2 residential building projects out of Creekmore, and you've heard me say time and time again, I thoroughly believe that is a barometer of the economic health of our city. As goes building in Creekmore, so does the economic health of our city. That's good news. 1 small to mid-sized building project for residents 55 and older, and these were in various stages, first and second reads, of course. We had 1 large multifamily residential project. We're going to have more citizens here in our city. 1 large commercial project that will bring jobs and attract retail to our city. And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, if I'm killing your State of the City speech here.
No, just keep those notes for me, will you?
New amenities at TB Hanna Station and Rec Park, an improvement of our codes through an exhaustive and lengthy process on behalf of our staff over the past several years, as you heard Mr. Fearborn say a while ago. My many thanks, Mr. Fearborn, to you and your staff. Please pass on my my kudos, my appreciation for everything. I think everyone else said that as well as to the Parks Board, to Planning and Zoning, to everyone involved in this. We are making, and I say we, I'm talking about the entirety of the group, we are making Raymore a better place to live and improving the quality of life every single day that goes by. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't top the comments tonight up here on the dais. They some great comments from my fellow council members, and I really do appreciate that. It does signify unification of this group and how we are working together as a team to get things accomplished. As speaking of teams, I want to put out a congratulations to the Ray-Pec football team. They had a tough loss on Saturday, but by golly, they did win their district. First district win at 6A, so we're really proud of them. A lot of great athletic accomplishments going on out there at Ray-Pec High School. So we've got just a wonderful program and something to be very proud of, and what draws people to our community as well. It was announced today we have a new superintendent. I forget what Dr. Schlegel's first name is, but he's coming to us from the Blue Valley School District, and I think supposed to start sometime after the first of the year to replace Dr. Monses, who will be sorely missed. He's been a great superintendent for us, and we will miss him, and we welcome Dr. Schlegel to our community. And with that, I will wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Yes,
I was remiss, sir. We should recognize, you mentioned the football team. There were other entities that actually took first place at state, the cheerleaders and the cross-country team. And we actually have one of the representatives here in the audience. Mr. Patterson is here as a member of that cross-country team that took the state championship in their division. And he's probably our last American government student of the year. Is that right, Josh? That's what I thought. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the recap because I knew we had a lot of titles. There's more that occurred that I probably were not mentioning, but just a great program out there. And finally, as I started to say, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Please enjoy your times with your family and be safe. And that's all we have for this evening. I don't think we have a reason to go into executive session, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn this meeting of the City Council.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned. It's unanimous.